Historians, intellectuals, and philosophers have sought to explain the various patterns which emerge within human civilization and within the various disciplines and fields of human civilization. For example, the great Islamic medieval historian Ibn Khaldun discussed the cycles that collective societies go through, and that all civilizations go through a rise, stagnation, and decline. These stages of rise, stagnation, and fall allow us to also go through paradigm shifts. And although this term is probably coined by Thomas Kuhn, however, what I mean by this is that every civilization, they go through a rise and a stagnation. But once that civilization falls, it forces the members and the remaining individuals of that society, alongside any new force that has the potential of forming a new civilization, it forces all of these characters and actors to evaluate their ideas and to develop new assumptions or to refine their old assumptions in light of real world evidence. Yet, surely, if these processes apply to human society, surely then they must also apply to the individual members of the society. The ideas presented in this video shall be related to the fact that such cycles that civilizations go through, and such cycles that the various knowledges and fields of humanity go through, can also apply to the individual. Individuals may also go through periods of rise, stagnation, and a decline, whereby each era, i.e., stage of a person's life, has these three parts. This forces the person, once he undergoes a period of a fall, to have a paradigm shift, whereby his old assumptions are challenged. Hence, he has to refine or discard his old principles and adopt new ones, hence leading to a paradigm shift. This new paradigm characterizes his new era or new stage of life which he enters. This process continues ad infinitum till death. What exactly do I mean by when I say a person goes through a rise, a fall, and a stagnation period? Typically, throughout each stage of a person's life, a person may make a lot of progress, or a person may make new breakthroughs within his own life. For example, he may achieve a lot of success. He may get good grades at school. He may become very successful in sports. He may become very successful in his career. He may get into a new relationship, or he may go through a very happy period of his life and a very successful and comfortable period of his life. This is his rise, his period of success and breakthroughs. This rise then gives way to stagnation, whereby the person, his new principles that he has made during his rise to success and happiness, essentially, he forms his new principles during this period. His new principles remain untested for a while, and he falls into comfort and he falls into a sense of ease and security. And this stagnation may make him comfortable with the way things are, thus, he may stop working very hard, or he may just accept the way that things are. And this is a period characterized by little to no progress, and generally staying in the same place which you've been in already. And then comes the decline, where due to various factors and due to the person's incapability to deal with a new challenge or with a new crisis, it leads to a bad period of a person's life where a lot of things may go wrong. Typically, this period may be catalyzed, or it may begin due to a crisis event. And it may also occur due to some emergency or catastrophe beyond the person's control. And you see a lot of unfortunate things happening to an individual, perhaps. Perhaps he goes through some heartbreak, Perhaps his relationships may fall apart. Perhaps he may go through a bad period in terms of his own spirituality and self development. Perhaps his career or his grades in school may take a bit of a hit. This period of decline then forces the individual to reevaluate his old principles, and it forces him to refine what he previously held true. Whatever principles are still useful, he will retain, but whatever principles were useless or they weren't correct to begin with, or they've been falsified by his life experience, will now be discarded in place of new principles. As such, these new principles of his and this new crisis or new emergency in his life that has emerged forces him to work harder and to put some sort of effort in to try and reform his life again and try to get things back in order. And this leads to a new period of arise, a new period of success and progress as an individual, ad infinitum till death. This may help explain why people may experience a painful yet insightful journey of self growth and healing at times of crises, as the old assumptions are made uncertain by a new crisis, and it forces them to reevaluate themselves and to reflect over themselves as people. On the other hand, success or progress under this paradigm that a person has may reinforce it for the one who holds it, thus potentially blinding him to the potential negatives. This is particularly important for those on self development, as it may explain why we may stagnate, or the self development term would be a rut, why we would fall into a rut after a long period of progress, only for us to experience a negative event which causes us to reevaluate our conclusions and emerge as a new person. Essentially, a paradigm shift leading to a new rise after a fall at the beginning of a new era for us. God is evolution in a sense. In other words, history is a process of trial and error where certain principles are tried and tested. Those who play by the better principles are rewarded with success, whilst those who play by lowly principles are damned to failure. The same applies here. Throughout our lives, we try and test various principles. If we succeed, we retain them as we attain our success. Yet if we fail, we reevaluate, then we either refine these ideas or we drop them entirely. I guess the best example to explain this would be to give a 13-year-old boy, let's call him James, for example. James experiences bullying at school. This breaks down his previous assumptions of general security and safety, which he had since childhood. However, he realizes that he's getting older now and he can no longer simply rely on his parents to help him out. Thus, he starts to work out, try and become stronger, and he tries to assert himself more as an aggressive person in order to not be crossed again. His new assumptions would be, I should be strong and I should be aggressive and assert my strength. From 14 to 15, he carries these two assumptions forward. However, his overly aggressive nature leads to a falling out with his friends. Thus, he realizes his mistakes and he changes. He goes through some character development. And part of his character development is that one of his old principles has been dropped and he has retained his other principle of being strong. So his new assumption now would be that I must be strong and also that I must be respectful yet not a pushover. Then at 15, he begins to realize the need to study for his future, to develop his future career. Thus, his previous lack of enthusiasm to study changes to a commitment/discipline to do so. This is just one example of many that could probably be given. However, this is all part of people's personal development throughout life. Humans all have their good, stagnant, and bad eras. They all go through periods of success and personal development, periods of stagnation where they don't really do much or they get complacent, and bad eras where they experience a lot of bad crises and bad events in their life and they make, in a sense, negative progress. However, it's the people who keep on pushing forward and get back to the rise and get back to the good times and push forward towards success who can continue to develop themselves further. As is said, history is a repeating pattern, and this is also true for individuals. These patterns play out within individuals throughout history, and we can see this within great figures as well, that they all went through their trials and tribulations, but in the end they emerged stronger through their sheer will and determination and commitment to the higher principles.